We'll start with today's opening words by Jill Jefferron on pilgrimage. What is pilgrimage? Entering the flow of sacred history, traveling to the ends of the earth, visiting the depths of your worst self, seeking inspiration, shunning limitations, clinging to hope, releasing cherished illusions, experiencing fear's torments, being misunderstood and misunderstanding, welcoming grace, exhausting your resources, leaving, arriving, leaving, arriving, receiving undeserved help, seeing while being seen, sharing, withholding, moving, always moving, extending kindness, getting lost and being found, orienting your heart. But what isn't pilgrimage? Staying stuck. May we now light our chalice with our chalice lighting words. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our power to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not curse, to serve you, O Spirit of freedom. Please join me in hymn 1064, Blue Boat Home, in the teal hymnal.
It's in your
Everything can print it out. You print it out.
and you may be on your own again. I don't have a voice yet. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from rolling ocean, still my dry heart can say. And the earth is my blue boat home, sun, sail, and moon, leaning over the edge in wonder. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port I have known. And the earth is my blue boat home.
We have a reading today from Bill Drayton. There is a land. There is a land always near to me, I know so well, a place where the cycle of seasons never fails to mark each succeeding year with its own special course. When I am far from home, I remember every unregretted stage of my pilgrimage on those shores to the times when I first stepped out, having long hid a shaming secret or for final release from our darker days. The spirit of the land lies within me, wherever I am present in the world. Through my presumed frailty, I learned to resist the relentless pressure of hostile familiarity and never veer from the path of persistent self-discovery. There is a land I know so well, always near to me. It is both dawn, when the sun climbs and draws across the waking earth, and my dusk, as the dim light fails and falls back into the shadows of a sleep, which may be infinite. The spirit of land lies within me, wherever I am present in the world. And now is a time where we share our joys and sorrows. But
we have a tradition in this congregation of taking a few moments during our morning Sunday service to hear the particular personal highs and lows or joys and sorrows of anyone who wishes to share some with the rest of the congregation today. So I'm going to give you a few moments of silence to consider if there's something you'd like to share with us, some personal high, some personal low, something that's concerning you, or something you just feel like you'd like to share a joy with the rest of the congregation. So let's take that moment of silence. At this time, anyone who has decided they'd like to share a joy or a sorrow with the rest of the congregation today is invited to come up and do so. Please speak your short but brief with the rest of the congregation, but also with the people on the Zoom. In order to do that, you need to speak into the microphone. And I would encourage you to step up just a little bit. You may not be seen as well, but it seems like we're getting back feed if I get much further back. So yeah, this would be a good location right here. I don't think you get much picture. That's not so important as what you said. So come forth if you would, please. And light a candle in the baptismal font if you would like.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I have both the joy and the sorrow this morning. My joy is I went down to Wellsville yesterday to visit my dad, and we celebrated his 88th birthday. It's hard to believe my dad's almost 90. It's like, wow, you know. So it was a great day. And also you all may not remember, you may or may not remember Evel Knievel, the motorcycle guy. Well, his son passed away recently too. So, but I remember when Evel Knievel tried to jump the Grand Canyon and his parachute opened too soon. So he didn't make it across, but thank goodness he was okay after that. And his son actually made it, I believe, you know, a few years ago. Maybe it's more like 10 or more years ago, but that was kind of cool. So, yep. Yep, about 60. Yep. 50. Oh, 6. Oh, yeah. Yeah, 6. All right.
As some of you know, last May, I bought a townhouse in Clearwater, Florida. And I've been going back and forth, and next Sunday, I'm leaving for a little over 2 months. So I won't be back until April. But on one of my last visits there, I went to the UU Church of Clearwater. And it was quite interesting. They have a different kind of setup. And the day I was there, they have a full-time minister, and the day I was there, the full-time minister was off. I don't remember if they said it was a man or a woman, but there were about 50, 60 people there, and they said, oh, this is like a drop in the bucket. They said, you know, this is a very sparse crowd today. And I thought 50 or 60, we would be overjoyed. But so I'm kind of anxious to get back down and go to the church and see exactly what they do. But they have a big screen. There's no standing for hymns. And there's a big screen and everything is on the screen. There's no hymnals. The words to the hymns are up there and the words to anything. And if you want to share a joy or sorrow, you must put it on an index card and submit it, and they read it. So I think we have a much more personal service going here. And so I'll miss everybody, but I'll be looking forward to a few experiences. I got quite a few friends that have already booked my second bedroom for 3 different weeks. So while I'm there, I'm going to have quite a bit of company, and I got a cousin there and some friends. So I'll see you all back in April.
Does anyone else have something you'd like to share with the congregation this morning? Then let's move to the collection of the offering for the financial welfare of the church. While Patty plays the offertory.
Well, good morning. I am so grateful to get to be with you, even virtually, on this cold, winter, snowy January day. I was just listening to you talk about how you do joys and sorrows, and the church I belong to, West Shore Unitarian in Rocky River, Ohio, has 400 to 500 members. So we do the same thing we do cards and stones, but I truly miss sometimes the personal touch of a joys and sorrows. So it's delightful to hear it this morning. So I come to you today with some stories not only of travel, but of our pilgrimage. Our Unitarian faith is a product of the Reformation and was introduced in the Transylvania region by David Ferenc, or Francis David, as we say it in English. He was a Transylvanian Catholic priest. Many of our UU churches have partner churches within this region, which is rich with our history. My home church of West Shore UU has an over 20-year relationship with our partner church in Bagyon. And at many points, brave travelers who were willing to travel on a pilgrimage that would change them forever. During this, we developed not only a partner church, but what I have begun to call our partner village. Let me share with you some of the stories of how I became involved. So I had only heard about this experience through several of my friends in the congregation. I had been curious, but honestly not terribly. I had little knowledge of anything Eastern European, and it wasn't high on the places I actually wanted to travel to, much less feel much of a connection to. So in the spring of 2021, my dear friend Sil, who'd traveled there all 20 years and had skipped 2020 due to the pandemic, was sitting in my living room, social distance, watching a film festival. And she looks at me and she says, "Oh, hey, I'm going to Transylvania in August. You want to go?" I had just left my job, had 100 reasons I probably shouldn't go and should have said no. But I said, sure, yes, why not? Because I love to travel. Honestly, I really didn't think, since we were still in the middle of a pandemic, that we would be doing this, but we did. Sil and I, our minister, Reverend Anthony, and his girlfriend set out as the intrepid travelers. The journey was different for all of us, and yet we bonded by this experience in a way that echoed our history with this beloved village and its residents and our faith. So what I would like to do now is walk you through a guided meditation of what the first experience entering the village was like. So every day I would walk the path from Reverend Bela's house to my host family and back and forth to the church. And I would always have my eye to the steeple. And it became a guided meditation for me. So let me walk you through this. So let's take a few deep breaths. 1, in and out. And in and out. And one more time, in and out. Close your eyes if you like, or fix your gaze upon something in the room. Imagine you're entering the village of Bagyon by dirt road after a long journey filled with planes and trains and automobiles. This part by foot. You are weary but content, excited for the journey. The rocks under your feet remind you of why you were warned to bring good shoes. You are greeted by the villagers, warm, gracious hospitality and hugs, even in a pandemic. They are so grateful that the Americans have come back to visit. More food appears than you can imagine. Homemade bread from the village, peaches and plums, and nectarines straight from the trees. Fresh meats cured right there in the village, and cheese and homemade wine and palinka, their alcohol, appear almost out of nowhere. You quickly begin to ease into this welcoming part of community. The language barrier is eased by the shared commonality of laughter. And then Darkness has long fallen on the summer evening when you walk the path back to your host family. Glance up at the crescent moon and back at the church-lit steeple. Settle in for your first night sleep on the journey, and you begin to anticipate the moments and the adventures of the journey to come. When you're ready, open your eyes and know that this is just a small taste of what I experienced that led us to the rest of our journey. We were surely tourists, not unlike Francis David, who came by his UU faith in this way. He had traveled to Wittenberg, Germany to study where Martin Luther, had taught. There, Francis David examined the writings of various religious scholars, some of whom challenged the theological concept of the Trinity. Francis David continued to study the Bible and the works of other theologians, and for a time became Lutheran. But when he returned to Transylvania, he began to share his newfound Unitarian beliefs. Unlike most of Europe, Transylvania exhibited religious tolerance at the time. Responding to the teachings of Francis David, the Prince John Sigismund of Transylvania, became a Unitarian. In 1568, he proclaimed the Edict of Religious Tolerance of the Diet, the Assembly of Nobles. So sadly, after his death, a new prince restricted all religious innovation in Transylvania. Francis David continued to interpret and preach his faith as he understood it. In 1579, he was tried for heresy and sentenced to prison in a remote fort located on top of a hill in the city of Deva. He died there within months. We visited Deva, and we also saw and visited the first Unitarian church in Cluj-Napoca, which exhibits the rock upon which Francis David was said to have stood to preach the message to the residents of the city. We also visited St. Michael's Catholic Church in Torda, where the Edict of Religious Tolerance was proclaimed. Torda also has a gorge in between the village we stay at and the main city of Torda, and it is said to have a vortex like Sedona or other places. So here's a story that I told for our water communion about the gorge. Torda Gorge, Transylvania, Romania, 2021. They have called us brave. The first Americans they have seen since COVID. Brave, perhaps? At this moment, I am not so sure. We entered down into the Torda Gorge, and I sit by a rock, by a flowing stream, trying to gain some peace. As quickly as I sit down, a storm crops up, bending the nearby trees in half. When we have to leave hurriedly and scared, rain trickling down my back to climb the slippery rocks, I try to remember that it is perfectly acceptable to be brave and scared at the same time. I suddenly find myself humming my favorite hymn, Spirit of Life, as we find our way out of the gorge. My water is my reminder of this contradiction. So when I've done sermons on this in the past couple of years, I have focused on the stories of the travelers from West Shore and their varied experiences and how it affected their individual spirituality while we were there and since they returned. And this year brought us a group of 20 or of 12 going, and we had various experiences. Today, as I share my relationship to the word pilgrimage and what I've gained spiritually, I want to share the next story. And honestly, in full disclosure, as life so happens when you go away, a lesson learned is life at home does not slow down and things happen. So on one of my first evenings there, I learned that one of my best friends was in ICU, hospice, and was to die before I was to return home. So many of those walks were spent bargaining with the clouds, the spirits, and some kind of God to at least let him live long enough to say goodbye. So amazingly, I felt his spirit, even with the miles. We were able to silently convey that. And I felt his presence on the trip, and I'm pretty sure he felt mine. The empathy that I then discovered within this village and my new friends held me through the experience. I learned that in these small villages, when someone dies, they ring the church bells to let the villagers know. It is even a different ring, a lower tone for a man or higher for a woman. These experiences tend to meet us where we're at on the journey, if we are willing. So the next story I want to share is of special importance to me. It is a letter from my host family to our church about their experience hosting us. I stayed with a family of 4 and with 2 little children. And I went on the trip only knowing my host family days before, with the reassurance from my friends that it would be fine and we would all get along. That was an act of faith. But it was more than fine. And here's the letter I got from them upon my return. Just a few months after the birth of our second child, we decided to host a member of the Bagyon Partner Church from Cleveland. I was very happy to be a part of this. I was craving something new, something different. When we met, we instantly became friends. And Barbara quickly became friends with our daughter too. It didn't matter that they didn't speak the same language. They just knew how to smile at each other, and they began to teach each other their language. Then both of the children got sick. I had help from my family, but still it was very powerful to know that I did not have to play a role. I was with all my baggage, may it include cough and runny nose and fever. We were together in this, and I didn't have to hide my pain, my concerns. I felt like I was already part of the team. When my daughter could not go to the summer camp that West Shore hosts at the church, they brought summer camp to me and came over and did the face painting and helped us out. We weren't left out at any time. Our guest openness amazed me, and I now understand why my husband, who had visited the US as part of the same program, loved his trip, and why after 12 years, he still talks about his spiritual journey with them. I now see how powerful team we are building. Please keep that spirit and bring it to us often. So in the next year, I got to stay with the same family. We connected over social media and learning English. The power of connection that we have built is why this experience is worth taking that random chance, saying yes despite doubt. When I left there last June, I got a text a few hours later, and they said, "Do you have our spare key?" I did, and I was reassured that I could bring it when I came back home. This is the connection. This is the global connection to the world community that is our faith. Thank you for letting me share my stories. Namaste. Please join me in our closing hymn in the Teal Hymnal Book, I Know I Can, number 1015.
How about we just do the first 2? I don't think we know this one, right?
The first 2 are fine.
Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on when sorrow heals my soul and burdens troubles wait at every turn. I know I can go on.
And now for any announcements you have, you'll have to help me with those.
We have a new supply of TOPS cards. We have 50s and 100s in here, and no, that's not right. We have 25s and 100s in here, and we have 50s upstairs. And this really helps the church. We get 5% of every one of these we sell. So if anybody is ready to renew their TOPS cards, we have lots of them.
Any other announcements? I can't see you, so no, okay, great. I'm going to end with these closing words from a poem called The Mosaic Makers by Alice Ford. You are mosaic makers, practitioners of justice, called to respond to the brokenness in the world, restoring beauty by joining in solidarity with the least of these, the poor, the undocumented, the wrongly persecuted because of sex or gender identity or race. You, mosaic makers, practitioners of justice, will minister to each other. For this minister needs your energy, your passion, your hands in order to thrive. It needs your wildly beating heart to animate the spirit. Being a mosaic maker isn't easy. The pieces are so teeny, it is difficult to see the whole picture. You always risk making a mistake and needing to be undone. You will have moments of disease, of needing to apologize, make amends, restore your covenant. You will have moments of fatigue. So share leadership, invite others to share their visions and co-create with you. You, mosaic makers, practitioners of justice, your work is an act of gratitude for those who came before and for that which is yet to be. How blessed you are. How blessed we are to be in this together. Namaste. Let us extinguish our chalice with these extinguishing words. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we are together again. Please rise and body your spirit for the postlude.